when our meditation is done collectively together in many countries, it becomes a social force and is strong enough to expand across the country to the whole world. We would like to thank all the participants who took the time to meditate with us. We would also like to thank PSSM Tamil Europe, PMC, for enabling this session. PSSM Tamil Europe and PMC are two spiritual movements, non-profit making, non-religious organizations. The core objectives of this organization is to spread the message of plant-based food diet, pyramid energy, spiritual science, and breath mindfulness meditation to the whole world. May the whole world be blessed with peace, prosperity, and well-being. Thank you. Valga Vayagam, Valga Palamudan. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Harish Davda. Harish has been meditating for over 25 years. He teaches meditation and runs an online meditation group in Isle of Skye, Scotland. Harry's background is in the management training and coaching. His career took him to many parts of the UK and overseas, where he led training programs for managers at all levels. Harish lives in Isle of Skye, Scotland with his wife. His interests include photography, music, walking, and cooking exotic vegetarian dishes. Now I invite Harish to speak about creating success. Harish's speech will be summarized by Mr. Kumarasamy Pillai from Sydney. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Raja, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here and to meditate with you all, and also to explore things which are either directly or indirectly related to meditation. So my talk today is about creating success. And I'm going to focus on a number of things. I'm going to talk about what is central to success. And then I'm going to define success as it is defined by most people. And then go through, what are the common beliefs of success that many people have. And then I'm going to share my own way of defining real success, success that comes from within us. I'll give you a few examples, and then I'll be very happy to answer any questions at the end. So I'm going to be talking for about 15 minutes, something like that. Okay, so what is central to success is becoming our authentic self. In other words, our pure self. And that comes as a result of going within, in my view, through meditation, other means of contemplation, etc. Whatever takes you within actually helps to not become successful, to take the success out, which is already within us. Okay, I'll come back to some of those things a bit later, just before the end. So what is success? Well, most people say that success is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. Interesting. The accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. Now, straight away, we can see that it's defined as something which is external to us. We'll come back to that later. And as a result of this definition, or linked with this definition, are certain beliefs that most people have. And I'm going to go through those beliefs. They could be regarded as rules. And people say, well, if you want to become successful, become successful. Yeah. Interesting. Become successful. In other words, you're working towards something maybe which is external to you, which is quite interesting to me. So I've actually identified a number of rules. There are 8 of them, I think, 7 or 8. So rules that one can follow to become successful, as it were. And the first one is that people say, well, you need to be passionate about whatever it is that you want to do. If you really want to do something, then your passion will get the creativity out. You become more motivated, etc., etc., and you'll be financially and personally prosperous. So that's one of the first beliefs, being passionate. The second one, which I believe, I've got a quotation of Margaret Thatcher, who said that, you've got to work hard. Success comes from really hard work. And she also said that, don't fool yourself. Success will not come until you have really, really worked hard. And you know what happens when people work too hard? They get under stress. They get all sorts of illnesses if they're not careful. I've certainly seen quite a few people in my work as a management trainer that often, people have a breakdown. I'm not saying everybody, and I'm not even against working hard, okay, but it depends how you look at working hard. Depends what it means to you. And in fact, I've got a quotation here from Margaret Thatcher, who we all know. The Iron Lady, she was referred to as. And she said that I do not know anyone who has got to the top without hard work. That is the recipe. So Margaret Thatcher said that. Okay, we can revisit this a bit later at the end. The third rule, or the third belief, is that we have to push ourselves, celebrate our wins, etc. And there's someone who wrote a book. It's called Good to Great, and his name was James Collins. And just to quote him, he said that greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline. Okay, again, there are all sorts of connotations about discipline. Now, that doesn't mean that, we can't have rules in our company, etc., etc. But sometimes discipline can go a bit too far. I remember when I was teaching management, there are management styles. And some management styles, particularly, you may know, for those of you who work as managers, you may know that there is such a thing as Theory X, which is a very authoritarian style of management. And then there is Theory Y, which is a kind of not laissez-faire, but kind of a gentle style of management, that you are there as a manager to empower your people and enable them to get the best out of their efforts and so on. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with any of this, but I think it is the degree and the motivation behind that is really, really important, which we will explore a bit later. There's someone called Jack Welch. He was the chairman. You may have heard about him. He's written so many books. He was the chairman and the CEO of General Electric in the US for more than 20 years. And just to quote what he regarded as being successful was that when he retired, he got a severance payment of over $400 million. Wealth as success, right? Okay, again, there's nothing wrong with that. The next point, the next rule, as it were, is to provide a good or an excellent customer service. And this is what Bill Gates said, that your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. If companies bothered to learn the comments of the customers, in my experience, not all of them do that, because increasing their income, increasing the turnover becomes the main aim. And sometimes some of these things are forgotten. I mean, you may have experienced bad service as well as a good service. And so sometimes the way people answer the phone, you can tell. Yes, that's not the way to answer the phone, you know, or sometimes you go into a shop to buy something, and then the way they look at you, as if to say, yeah, listen, you are a nuisance, you know, you are disturbing my peace. I'm not saying that all of them are like that, but you may have come across examples. Now, to me, that is not success. When I see that, when I go into a shop or an organization, and you see such behavior, you say to yourself, I wonder how successful they are. Okay, so service is regarded as important. And this is what Bill Gates, the former chairman of Microsoft, billionaire. Another point is to create ideas. This is something that the former chief executive of Apple Computers, Apple, Steve Jobs, unfortunately he passed away because he had cancer. He was a very highly creative person. If you read about Apple, it's kind of design oriented. I mean, I use an Apple laptop, actually, MacBook, and it's absolutely brilliant. So that's ideas. So his motto was, well, let's create ideas, and we can then create brand loyalty, and we will be successful financially, etc. Another point about the rule of success is be persistent. And you know, if you are persistent in terms of what you want to do, then you will be successful. And in spite of the fact that you may encounter defeats, etc., you can really be successful. Again, definition of success is entirely up to you. And finally, Richard Branson said that, you know, you got to push the limits. When I used to teach management, there was a kind of a theory or a set of ideas about boundary crossers. That, you know, some business people very good at crossing boundaries, and Richard Branson was regarded as one of those. So he said, push the limits. And if you read about Richard Branson, the way he started, you know, with one or two airplanes, which was secondhand, and then turned it later on, after many years, turned it into a very successful airline company. And then he went into all sorts of things. Okay, so that's Richard Branson. And he also said that far too many people, I'm just reading his quote, far too many people don't excel in life because they are too afraid of taking the necessary steps to achieve their dreams. And finally, be persistent. I think we talked about that. Okay, so these are some of the common ideas, common beliefs as far as success is concerned. There is nothing wrong with them, provided it's the way we interpret them. And my view about many of these kind of beliefs about success or rules about success is that if we are not careful, the ego takes over. My company is better than yours. I'm very good at competing with you. I would really like you to go out of business so that I can get your market share. This happens in the real world. The whole basis of business model, in my view, is quite a lot of it. There are other ideas that have come across as well over the past 30, 40 years, but main idea is profit maximization. If we can maximize the profit, then we are regarded as successful. I would ask questions like, well, what about the happiness level within your organization? What about opportunities in your organization so that people can develop, so that wherever they go, they can excel, they can make a contribution? How do people feel when they use your products, etc., etc.? So these are some very valid questions that I would certainly ask. So what are what is real success in my view? Just my my ideas about humble ideas is that we need to sort of have access to this healthy part of our mind. I think we've talked about this in my recent talks, that there are two sides to the mind. You have the healthy part of the mind, which in my view has connection towards your essence or towards your consciousness. And we need to sort of look at that. We need to develop that. Not develop that, we need to be able to see that by removing layers. And my way of doing this is meditation, 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 twice a day, without pushing ourselves. If we push ourselves, then it's not going to work, but it's just having this motivation of sitting down, meditate. Like, I really admire Mr. and Mrs. Raja, who tirelessly 3 times a day offer these wonderful sessions. And I know that many people actually not only take part in it, but I'm sure that you, Mr. and Mrs. Raja, you changed many people's lives, I'm sure. And sometimes when I hear, after 100 days and 200 days and 300 days and after a year and so on, what people have said is just amazing. So that you are actually enabling people to identify their success. Another thing is just I think once we go within, there are no limits to success. Some of the ideas that I went through, some of the rules I went through, they are kind of boundary definitions. If we do this, we become successful in this way. Well, break those boundaries. So look beyond those expectations of yourself and other people. There is such a thing as possibility thinking. I mean, one of the questions is, well, what is possible? And then go along that line of thinking, feeling, action. When we combine our thinking and our feelings and action, it's much more powerful than just using our head. Another thing is that we need to bring courage, truth, and integrity. You cannot get away from the truth. I remember my wife and I recently went to a inverted commas Indian restaurant, and the food wasn't very good. This was when recently we like traveling from time to time, sometimes more often than not. So we went to this restaurant, and the food wasn't particularly good. I had bindi bhaji. Bindi bhaji was hard. Now listen, my wife and I, we know how to cook. I learned from my mother how to cook. And you can't go wrong when your mother teaches you. And it was a bit hard. And there were a few other things wrong. So I said to the person serving us, he happened to be one of the owners. I said, this is not acceptable, really. I mean, I didn't want to sort of lose my temper. I never do that. His response was that, well, the local people, the Scottish people living here, this was in Kinross. That's the only Indian restaurant. They don't know much about Indian food. So I said, what? I can't imagine you saying this. You should be proud of what you offer. How about cooking with love? And I said to him, because we like going to different types of restaurants, particularly Indian restaurants, I gave him names of some of the Indian restaurants in Glasgow and in Edinburgh, because we know those areas. I said, take your chef there and let them see what excellence can be achieved by offering Indian dishes. In our case, of course, it's vegetarian dishes because, you know, my wife and I are vegetarian, and I know she's going to talk about that tomorrow, but that's another talk. So that it was quite interesting. I mean, of course, I didn't want to get angry, but I made my point, and my wife actually said something which annoyed him, and my wife said to him, "Are you paying your staff enough?" She can be a bit naughty sometimes. His face changed. And so, okay, yeah, if you need anything, just let me know, blah, blah, blah. I just went away. Anyway, so that's an example of service, right? You know, that's an example. To me, it's an example of not being successful, taking customers for granted. Okay, so courage, truth, integrity, this is what we were talking about. And also your success is other people's success as well. If you run an organization, however small, however big, if you're successful, then other people are going to be successful as well, because you will be setting an example. You will be setting certain systems which they can use. And many of these come from within. So really, to me, success comes from within. And also not letting the mind or the ego come in the way, and not living in the past, because certain things may have happened in the past. That shouldn't affect you in the present, because the present is the only thing we have now, every moment. And creativity and everything else is in the moment of now. And to me, the fundamental thing about success is that we already are successful. You know, human beings are so creative, so we need to accept that, and then use our gifts. We all have a gift. You know, the fact that we are alive, you know, is something which is so huge in my view. And also and all these things actually happen to become our authentic self or our pure self. And you know, whatever we do is bound to be successful. And if something doesn't work, there's a reason for that. And we need to identify that reason. So what I'm also saying is it's learning to go with the flow. And that flow can be so powerful in enabling you to do what you want to do and what you're here to do. And based on that, just to finish it off, just want to say something else, which is that there is such a thing as you know, when certain changes happen in our life, changes for the better, and often these changes actually can enable us to bring that success out from within ourselves. There are three things. We get the message through a messenger at an appropriate time. So message, messenger, timing. Let me give you one example. I was looking at an example of someone who's a sort of eminent teacher, spiritual teacher, and he said that he used to be a very high-powered executive. This is in the US and New York City. And he had his office, or his company's office, was in one of the Twin Towers. And just before the terrorist attack on Twin Towers, or maybe it's a little bit before that, he'd finished his work and he was walking on a pavement. And suddenly, this man, who I believe was homeless, he popped his head out of a cardboard box. and said something. So this man, this high-powered executive, started to take some money out and gave him some money. And this homeless man said to him, "It's not about money. I have a question. What is going to be written on your tombstone?" So the message was from this homeless person. The messenger was the homeless person. The timing was right because he was willing to listen. And according to him, that changed his life. And his success began to come from within. He became a spiritual teacher, going around the world, teaching meditation, etc., etc. And there are many, many examples. Just to give one more example of Gandhiji. Gandhiji was in South Africa. He had just qualified as a lawyer at one of the inns in London. And he was beginning to start his practice, and this Indian businessman came to him and he said, "Listen, we're having problems with these pass laws." In those days they had pass laws in South Africa. It was a very racist regime. And Gandhiji listened to him and said, "Yes, I will help you." So he organized a campaign. Before that, Gandhiji couldn't give a speech. He was very shy. This was the development into something that became so huge. So the messenger was the businessman who needed help. The message was that the South African regime was very racist and something needed to be done about that. And the timing was right because he was able to capture the timing. As we all know, he took on the British Empire, the likes of Churchill and so on. Gandhiji was involved in gaining independence for India. So that wake-up call involving messenger, message, and timing can be so powerful. We all have that, by the way. Okay, think about how you went into a career, who inspired you. In my case, I was inspired by someone who was talking about economics, and that led my direction towards studying economics, etc., etc. Okay, so really to summarize, success is already within us. We are what we seek. We have to be limitless in what we do. And finally, meditation is very much part of that. Yeah, mindfulness. It's taking mindfulness in our day-to-day life is really important. And I want to finish by reading a quotation by Rumi. And Rumi said that you are not just a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean. Okay, thank you so much for listening. If there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Harish. How we can create our success, that is, we have to push ourselves and work hard, and we have to do daily meditating, so we have to be mindfulness. And you told about, it's a very inspiring and wonderful speech you have given to us. And you told about that messenger and message timing, it come within us. So thank you very much for your speech. Now, Marasampula Master will be summarized in Tamil for us. Thank you.
அனைத்து அன்புள்ளங்களுக்கும் எனது மனமார்ந்த வணக்கம். ஹரில் டேவிட் மாஸ்டருடைய ஆங்கில உரையை அதன் தமிழ் ஆக்கத்தை தொகுப்பை நான் வழங்க இருக்கின்றேன். அவர் பேசிய தலைப்பு வெற்றியை உருவாக்குதல். வெற்றியின் மையம் என்ன? வெற்றி என்றால் என்ன என்றால், உண்மையா வெற்றியை உண்மையான நிலை என்றால் அது வெற்றியின் உண்மை நிலையை காண்தல். அதாவது நமக்குள்ளே சென்று அங்கே அகத்திலே இருக்கின்ற வெற்றியை காண்பது. ஆனால் இப்பொழுது குறிக்கோள் என்ன மாதிரி என்றால், நாங்கள் வெற்றியை வெளியே உள்ளது என்று தேடிக்கொண்டிருக்கின்றோம். வெற்றி தொடர்பான சில நம்பிக்கைகள், அதாவது விதிகள் உள்ளன. அவற்றில் சிலவற்றை நான் உங்களுக்கு கூற விரும்புகின்றேன். முதலாவது ஆங்கிலத்தில் சொல்றா பேஷனேட், அதாவது தீவிர உணர்ச்சியுடன் ஆர்வத்துடன் நாங்கள் வெற்றியை தேடுவது. அது இப்ப எடுத்துக்காட்டாக நாங்கள் பணத்தை சேர்க்க வேண்டும் என்ற ஆர்வத்துடன் ஓடி ஓடி உழைப்போம். இரண்டாவது கடினமான உழைப்பு. இதைத்தான் மார்கரெட் தட்சர் சொன்னார், கடினமான உழைப்பு இருந்தால் தான் வெற்றி கிடைக்கும் என்று மார்கரெட் தட்சர் கூறினார். ஆனால் இறுதி கணிப்பின்படி கடினமான உழைப்பு சில நேரங்களில் சிலருக்கு மன உளைச்சலை ஏற்படுத்தலாம். மூன்றாவது, வெற்றிக்கு என்ன கொண்டாடணும்? வெற்றி ஏற்படும் பொழுது அதை கொண்டாட வேண்டும். அதற்கு அந்த வெற்றியை கொண்டு நாங்கள் மகிழ்ச்சி அடைய வேண்டும். நாலாவது எக்ஸலன்ட் கஸ்டமர் சர்வீஸ். இது பில் கேட்ஸ் சொன்னது. பில் கேட்ஸுடைய நம்பிக்கை. பில் கேட்ஸின் படி திறமையான வாடிக்கையாளர்கள் இருந்தால் அது ஒரு வெற்றியாகும் என்று பில் கேட்ஸ் கருதுகின்றார். அதாவது நல்ல வாடிக்கையாளர்கள், அந்த நிறுவனம் ஆட்களை வரவேற்று நல்லபடியாக நிறுத்தினால் அந்த நிறுவனம் வெற்றி உள்ளது என்று பில் கேட்ஸுடைய நம்பிக்கையாக இருந்தது. அடுத்ததாக எண்ணங்களை உருவாக்குதல். அதாவது நல்ல எண்ணங்களை கண்டுபிடித்து உருவாக்கினால்தான் அது ஒரு வெற்றி. இது ஆப்பிள் நிறுவனத்தின் ஸ்தாபகர் ஸ்டீவ் ஜாப்ஸுடைய நம்பிக்கை. அடுத்ததாக பிரான்சன் என்று அவர்கள் என்றால் கடைசி வரையும் எந்த விதமான சூழ்நிலையிலும் முயற்சி செய்து கொண்டே இருந்தால் வெற்றி நிச்சயம். ஆரம்ப வெற்றி என்றில்லை, அதுக்கு ஒரு எல்லை இல்லாமல் முயற்சி செய்திருப்பதான் என்று. மற்றது மகிழ்ச்சியான நிலை என்ன, உண்மையான வெற்றி என்றால் என்ன என்றும். உண்மையான வெற்றி என்பதற்கு முதலாவது நோயற்ற மனம் தேவை, ஆரோக்கியமான மனம் தேவை. அதுக்கு இயற்கையாக நாங்கள் செய்ய வேண்டும் என்றால் தியானம் செய்வது ஒரு வழி. இயற்கையாக நாங்கள் தியானம் செய்யும் போது மனதில் ஒரு அமைதி ஏற்படும். அடுத்ததாக நாங்கள் எங்களுடைய வெளியே தேடாமல், முன்பு கூறின வெளியே தேடாமல் அந்த வெற்றியை அகத்தின் உள்ளே தேட வேண்டும். நாங்கள் நமக்கு உள்ளேயே அந்த வெற்றி இருக்கிறது. வெளியிலே தேடி பெறுவது வெற்றி அல்ல. அகத்திலே நாங்கள் வெற்றி கண்டோம், அதை மிக உண்மையான வெற்றியாக கருதப்படும். அடுத்ததான எப்பொழுதும் என்ன நல்லது நடக்கும் என்ற நிகழ்வதற்கான நல்ல வாய்ப்பு இருக்கின்றது என்ற ஒரு நம்பிக்கை எங்களுக்கு தேவை. மற்றது அது மட்டும் இல்லை, இப்படியான வெற்றிக்கு நாங்கள் முயற்சி செய்யும் போது துணிவு வேண்டும், நேர்மை வேண்டும். மற்றது நாங்கள் வெற்றி பெறும் பொழுது அந்த வெற்றி மற்றவர்களுக்கு உரியதாக நாங்கள் கருத வேண்டும். எங்கள் வெற்றியை மற்றவர்கள் வெற்றியாக கருதினால்தான் அதுக்கு உண்மையான எடுத்து காட்டுகிறோம். அடுத்ததாக உண்மையான வெற்றி எடுத்துக்காட்டு நாங்கள் வெளியே இல்லாமல் உள்ளே இருப்பதுதான் வெற்றி. ஆணவம் இருந்தால் அது வெற்றி எடுக்கக்கூடாது. இன்னொரு முக்கியமான கருத்து என்னென்றால், நாங்கள் எப்பொழுது நிகழ்காலத்தில் வாழ கற்றுக்கொள்ள வேண்டும். நாங்கள் கடந்த காலத்துல நாங்கள் வாழக்கூடாது. மற்றது வெற்றிக்கு என்ன மாதிரி உருவாக்குறது என்றதுக்கு சில வேறு கோட்பாடுகளும் இருக்கின்றன. அடுத்ததாக வெற்றி இல்லை என்றால் அதுக்கு ஏன் நாங்கள் வாழ்க்கையில வெற்றி பெறவில்லை என்றால் அதுக்கு நிச்சயமாக சில காரணங்கள் இருக்கும். இந்த காரணங்களை நாம் கண்டுபிடிக்க வேண்டும். அடுத்தது வாழ்க்கையிலே எது நடந்தாலும் அது ஏற்றுக்கொள்ள வேண்டிய மன பக்குவத்தை நாங்கள் ஏற்படுத்திக் கொள்ள வேண்டும். வாழ்க்கையிலே மாற்றங்கள் ஏற்படுவது இயற்கை. அந்த இயற்கையோடு நாங்கள் கூடி போக வேண்டும். மற்ற வாழ்க்கையிலேயே சில நேரங்கள் எங்களுக்கு கஷ்டம் ஏற்படுது என்றால் அந்த வாழ்க்கை எங்களுக்கு ஏதோ ஒரு செய்தியை தருகின்றது. அந்த செய்தியை நாங்கள் என்னென்று உன்னிப்பாக கவனிக்க வேண்டும். வாய்ப்பு ஏற்படும் உதாரணம் எடுத்துக்காட்டாக மகாத்மா காந்தி சவுத் ஆப்பிரிக்காவில் இருந்தார். அவர் ஒரு வெக்க சுபாவம் உள்ளவர், பேச மாட்டார். ஆனா அவர் வழக்கறிஞராக இருந்தார். ஆனா அங்கே உள்ள ஆட்சியாளர்கள் இன துவசத்தினால் இந்தியர்களை துன்புறுத்தும் பொழுது அவருக்கு ஒரு செய்தி கிடைத்தது. அந்த ஆட்சிக்கு எதிராக போரிட வேண்டிய நேர்மை சந்தர்ப்பம் உருவாக்கப்பட்டது. அவர் ஏற்றுக்கொண்டார். அவருடைய வாழ்க்கை மாறி வேற திசையில் சென்றது. இது ஒரு எடுத்துக்காட்டாக கூறுகின்றேன். அடுத்ததாக நாங்கள் எப்பொழுதும் சுருக்க போனால் வெற்றி என்பது வெளியே தேடும் பொருள் அல்ல. அந்த வெற்றி எங்களுக்கு உள்ள அகத்திலே உள்ளது. அதை நாங்கள் கண்டெடுத்து வெளியே கொண்டு வர வேண்டும். இதை நாங்கள் தினசரி வாழ்க்கையில் கடைபிடிக்க வேண்டும். தினசரி வாழ்க்கையிலே நாங்கள் என்றால் அதுக்கு ஒரே ஒரு வார்த்தை, நிகழ்நிலையில் விழிப்புணர்வுடன் தியானம் செய்வதுதான் என்னுடைய கருத்து என்றால் அப்பொழுதுதான் நான் உண்மையான அகத்தை தூய்மைப்படுத்தி உள்ளே சென்று வெளியே தேடாமல் வெற்றியை அடைய முடியும். அந்த வெற்றி தான் ஒரு நிரந்தரமான வெற்றி என்று கூறிக்கொண்டு என்னுடைய நிறைவு செய்கின்றேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
Thank you very much, Kumaraswamy Pillai Master. Very well explained, summarized in Tamil, Mr. Harish Davda's speech. Now, I would like to call any master would like to give any comments or to ask any questions. Please raise your hand. Yeah. Now, Dr. Nadraja from UK. Jagannathan, Dr. Nadraja Master, please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Vanakkam, good morning. Quite an inspiring talk, Mr. Harish Davda. It really inspired me, and a couple of points you highlighted. There's no point repeating it. Even yesterday's talk about enlightenment, it was highlighted that it comes within. So likewise, you did say it's an internal phenomena, but people often the measure is done as an external measure, which is sadly. And also the other point you mentioned about integrity. Integrity is truth and honor. I wonder why all the politicians are called right honorable. Anyway, so, finally, what was it? Persistence, being persistive. There's a quote in Tamil. I'll say that in Tamil. Muyachchithiru vinai aakkam. That means persistence determines your destiny. So that's where we had to be quite observant. People often want to blame the destiny on other factors, which I'm rather skeptical about. So it's there in the quote, in Tamil as well. If persistence or effort creates yours and it determines your destiny. Anyway, it was an inspiring and enjoyable talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If I can just make one comment, is that it's very difficult to know why people, including politicians, behave in a certain way. And we can go on talking until the cows come home about their behavior and so on. It's just that often people are not ready. They haven't done as much work as maybe we have done on ourselves to be able to for them to come out of and show their integrity and etc. So that's one reason. I think another reason is because because the system doesn't allow them, because as soon as someone gets elected as a prime minister or president, they're planning strategy for the next election in 4 or 5 years' time. So I think it is the system that actually reflects some of the behavior, and the same thing happens within organizations as well. I mean, I've had chats with in the past, conversations with executives in companies, and they sometimes say that, well, it's beyond my control to change things. Then I said, well, can you change things within your team? He said, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll think about it, and so on. So yeah, thank you for those comments.
One more point I missed out. The integrity also means something to be firm. So the basics and the foundation should be steady or truthful, isn't it? That's where people fail. They often make the promises and then they forget. So the foundation or basis is gone. So how do you then become integrated? And thank you.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I have to say, there are some good things that actually come out of the political system. I mean, when I see certain things happening regularly, the collection of rubbish, certain things get done, etc., etc. So we can't, I mean, that I suppose they are doing their best, but at the same time, there are some people who may not be able to act in such a way, or they may be out of integrity, which is very sad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I call Saro Sundarlinga Master from Sydney. Thank you.
Greetings, Harish Davda Master. You made an excellent analysis of the route to success. Success in ordinary life, success to entrepreneurs who are doing their businesses. I really love the way you analyzed the different points. Now, one important point that you said was success comes from hard work. That is a recipe. The recipe for success is hard work. But then you also said that it can lead to stress, illness, and all that. That is, now at this point, I would like to ask you something. That is a question that came to my mind. Isn't success based on balancing work and leisure? A person has to work hard, but also at the same time has to have enough leisure to be successful, because overworking, as you said, can lead to stress and illness. That can eventually lead to failure in the path that they are taking. That's one point. The other thing is, you mentioned about the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher, who said, working hard. Okay, you have to work hard to achieve success.
Yes.
I appreciate the way Margaret Thatcher helped Britain to recover from the recession. Very successful. But one thing in her was that, the thing that failed in her administration was that she failed to consult her cabinet ministers before taking a decision.
Yes.
You know, to be successful in life, ordinary life, or to be successful in a business as an entrepreneur, isn't consultation and conciliation necessary to be successful? That was one point that Margaret Thatcher, I think.
Yeah,
This is
I
what
agree
my
with you.
personal opinion.
Yes.
Anyway, that is one thing. And another thing I like to stress is that leisure is essential to recharge your mind, I think. Isn't leisure essential to recharge our minds?
Yes, yes.
And which will enable us to innovate, think, create new thinking in our minds, help us to innovate and be successful. Am I right, sir?
Yes, yes, I totally agree with you what you've said, madam. Just going back to Margaret Thatcher, I mean, in my view, quite often Margaret Thatcher was a bully. I think the power went in her head, and as a result of that, I think she was divisive. I mean, I live in Scotland, as you all know, and she closed some of the very important industries like shipbuilding and so on. Unemployment was very high in Scotland, more than anywhere else in the UK, and people suffered quite a lot. And so I think that when the power goes in the head, you know, this is the work of the ego. I mean, to me, why do people work hard? Because they want to achieve more and more and more. Oh, I want to buy a new car. That's what that's why, and therefore I must do overtime. I must get another job. You know, a part-time job. Now, all these things are coming from the egoic mind. The ego, if we are not careful, can take over. But it's about stepping back through meditative practices and so on, contemplation. We begin to learn to go with the flow. You know, particularly in the West, I mean, so tell me what you think, but in the West, I believe that lots of things are compartmentalized. we get up in the morning at certain time, and then we do certain things before we go to work, and then we do other things, etc., etc. So it seems that we live, if we are not careful, we live a very regimented life, and there's no need for that. Even within the structure, we can give ourselves freedom and learn to go with the flow. And that was one of the things, in my view, that will lead to your success or our success, because we are not following and bound by the psychological man-made time. In the olden days, before the clocks and watches and mobile phones were invented, people just look at the sky and they say, well, I think it's lunchtime now. You know, people were much more relaxed. Now, I'm not saying that we go back to that way of living. We can't, because we have moved on. But within that, within the structure, let's learn to go with the flow. And people often ask me, they said, well, yeah, okay, but what about, you know, you're talking about going with the flow, etc., etc. That's fine. It sounds like a philosophical idea, but how do I make a living? I said, well, start with your living first. You know, read about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It starts with the basic physiological needs. Sort that out for yourself and your family to feel secure. And then learn, and then say, right, okay, I've done this. I'm so proud of feeding my family or contributing to my family. What else do I want to do? What am I here for? What do I need to do? What are the next steps? And so on. And that will bring more success from within. So, you know, buying a new car, you know, because the neighbors are going to praise you. Well, how often are they going to praise you? Just maybe for the first week or so, and then the car will get old, and people don't even wash their cars. You know, so we need to be, one of the things about meditation and about doing inner work is to recognize the work of the ego. Not everything about mind is bad. I think we've talked about this, that mind is excellent at solving problems, but go beyond that mind, okay? Be in touch with yourself. I mean, listen, I mean, what I've just said is not a blueprint. I'm still learning. We're all in the same boat. Yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I'm learning. Thank you so much for those comments. I really appreciate them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harish Davda.
Thank you. Next
You
one.
Saying that mindful life, mindful meditation can lead to calmness of the mind, and it also helps to refresh our minds. So
Yes,
that will
absolutely.
definitely lead to success. Thank you very much for mentioning that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'll call Kumaraswamy Pulle Master from Sydney.
Harish Master, your speech was very inspiring and informative. I would like to express some few ideas about your speech. Actually, success could be defined in many ways. It could be financial, spiritual, or humanitarian. But when we do service for the poor people, we really have enjoyed that. So when we have the financial or success is not helpful in any way. And you have stressed another point that we have to learn from moment to moment. That's the only way we can have peace of mind. Otherwise, we'll never have peace of mind. That's a very absolutely correct one, because we are our life, daily life, most of our people, or 80% of the people, either they are living in the past or dreaming about the future, but they never live in the present. So the main purpose, all of us are gathering here to concentrate on the now. The now is the most important thing. Every moment counts. So by doing this mindfulness meditation, is very simple, and everybody can have peace of mind. That's my experience, and you touch on that. I thank you for that.
Yes, yes.
Thank
you. I agree with everything that you are saying, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now I'll call Jnana Master from Blackpool. Thank you. Please unmute yourself now. Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher, she was a good prime minister. She broke the miners' strike.
Yes.
And she forgot people's need. She didn't want to listen to nobody. One thing she did, she was in the, while she was a prime minister, she was against all the men. And
Yes.
not against all the men. And, she was only successful prime minister, the first prime minister, female prime minister. And she did very well with the miners' strike, but they were really, really bullying. And that time I remember we had to go and stand again on the roadside and we had to go to strike,
Yes.
And a lot of things was happening. I admired her quality, but in the same time, she forgot that people chose her to be a prime minister. And she said there's no U-turn, but eventually she has to do the U-turn and she has to, it's a shame, even though she was a good prime minister, but she lost track with the people, normal people. But people also can't expect things for doing nothing and, comparing other people and things like that. So, if we want something, we have to work for it and we have to, like we all agree with mindfulness, meditation, it's a great thing, but I don't know how many people realize that. There's a lot of stressful world nowadays, and they all have to find, and even if we ask someone to do the meditation and they think that we are mad, then why we, thing is, for me, I find it very helpful and very, very therapeutic or whatever, I find peace anyway. And I hope the rest of the nation will able to find it and follow.
Yeah. Well, you made some very, all the points that you made are very valid. And just to say that we can't just entirely depend on our politicians. The question that comes to my mind is, what are we doing? There's a very famous speech that John F. Kennedy made, and I can't remember the exact words, but he said something to this effect that, think about what you are doing for your great country. Don't just wait for politicians to initiate and achieve change. Well, what are you doing? And I think that, inner change is more powerful than anything else. If we allow ourselves to change innerly, we have all the resources within us. As I said, we have what we speak within us.
I think we forget that the country needs us,
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you anyway.
Thank you. Now I'll call upon Bhavani Master from UK. Master, you can speak now.
Mr. Harish Devadas, your speech is very nice and lovely. I always listen to your speech. I make one point when my father he always tell me, contented mind is a continual feast. So if you are not contented, and then you can't enjoy your success.
No.
So I don't know what is your opinion is.
Absolutely. I think we have to be grateful. We have to practice gratitude with what we have, what we have, and so on. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
And if you can't enjoy your success, there's no limit, isn't it? You keep on going and going.
Absolutely.
And you will never feel your happiness in your success.
Yes, sure. I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Because the time is up, the PMC, they have come for the recording, and we are going on live within another 4 minutes. So if you can, Nadraja Master, if you can be quick, that will be better for us. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for Mr. Kumarasamy as well for his excellent translation. Only one line really. Everybody has seen the sign, speed kills in motorway. Likewise, greed kills us. Also, we shouldn't look for impressing others. We should be inspiring within. Inspiration is the term referred to breathing in, utsvasam in Tamil. So likewise, inspiring is better than impressing others. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much, Harish, Davda, because we had a very good inspiring speech, and thank you for that. And we will see you again soon, because tomorrow Mrs. Davda is going to speak. So we will meet you again. So we'll be seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you very much. Because
Yes, we will. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. PMC யார் இருக்கிறீர்கள்?
அபிஷேக் மேம்.
அபிஷேக், தாமோதரம் மாஸ்டர் இருக்கிறார். சார் உங்களை ஒரு வணக்கம் சொல்றீங்களா? தாமோதரன் மாஸ்டர், டாக்டர் தாமோதரம்.
வணக்கம் வணக்கம் வணக்கம்.
உங்களோட முகம் தெரியல.
வணக்கம் மேடம்.
வணக்கம். அபிஷேக் பாக்குறீங்களா அவரை?
செக் பண்றேன்.
ஓகே, நன்றி.
கொஞ்சம் பேக் போங்க.
இல்ல இங்க இடம் வந்து ரொம்ப இட்ஸ் a very small place.
ரொம்ப பிளாக்கா இருக்கு சார்.
நானே பிளாக் தான் சார்.
இல்ல பிளாக் ஸ்கிரீன் மேலேக்குது. ஃபேஸ் கிளியரா தெரியலன்ற லைட் இல்லாம.
இல்ல அது லைட்டிங் வந்து இங்க ஆக்சுவலா இது ஒரு வெரி ஸ்மால் ஆபீஸ் ரூம். இது நான் தனியா தான் லைட் போடணும். ஆக்சுவலா எலக்ட்ரீஷியனை கூப்பிட்டு இருந்தேன், அவர் வரேன்னாரு. அவரு என்னைக்கு வராருன்னு அவருக்கும் தெரியல, எனக்கும் தெரியல. போட்டுடலாம் அடுத்த முறை பண்ணும்போது. let me have some lightning things with the lightning thoughts.
அப்ப அபிஷேக் அவ்வளவுதானே லைட் வர முடியும், பரவாயில்லையா?
கிளியரா இல்ல
மேம், கிளியரா இல்ல.
இது நான் ரொம்ப எடுத்தேன்னா என்ன கனெக்ஷன் விட்டு போயிட்டு போதும் பயமா இருக்கு. வேற இப்போ தெரியுதா ஓரளவு?
அது கொஞ்சம் பெட்டர். அபிஷேக் பரவாயில்ல, செய்வோம். என்னண்டா டைம் வந்து
கொஞ்சம் பரவாயில்லையா?
அப்படியே தான் சார் இருக்கு. உங்களுக்கு ஓகேவா சார்?
எனக்கு ஓகே சார். நான் சார் பரவாயில்லையா? கேன் யூ ஏபிள் டு see?
பேச வடிவா பேச பார்க்க முடியாது, பரவாயில்ல. ஓகே,
பேச பார்க்க முடியலையா?
லைட் ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணணும். அடுத்த முறை செய்யுங்க. இந்த முறை கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டம்.
அடுத்த முறை இல்ல, நான் இந்த முறை
அது பெட்டரா இருக்கு. அது இப்படி பெட்டரா இருக்கு கொஞ்சம். அபிஷேக் அப்படி இருக்கட்டும், பரவாயில்ல.
இது பாருங்க
தலை கட் பண்ணாம.
to some extent.
Right.
இப்ப நல்லா இருக்கு.
Okay.
Okay, Abhishek,
to some extent.
ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணட்டுமா அபிஷேக்?
1 second.
அபிஷேக், நான் மியூட் போறேன் எல்லாரையும்.
போடுங்க.
ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலனா
நீங்க சொன்ன அப்புறம் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுங்க.
மேம் கேக்குதா?
கேக்குது.
ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுங்க மேம்.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். இன்று சனிக்கிழமை 14ஆம் தேதி ஜூன் மாதம் 2022. இப்பொழுது இங்கிலாந்தில், அதாவது யூகேயில் 11 மணி, ஐரோப்பாவில் மதியம் 12 மணி, நியூயார்க் டொரண்டோவில் காலை 6 மணி, இந்தியா இலங்கையில் மாலை 3 மணி 30 நிமிடங்கள், சிட்னி ஆஸ்திரேலியாவில் இரவு 8 மணி.
இத்தியானத்தில் கலந்து கொண்டிருக்கும் அனைவருக்கும் நன்றி. இன்றைய நிகழ்ச்சி முதலாவதாக தியானத்தை பற்றிய சிறிய விளக்கம் கூறப்பட்டு தியானம் எவ்வாறு செய்யப்படும் என்று கூறி பிதாமகர் பிரம்மஸ்ரீ பத்ரிஜி அவர்களின் இனிமையான இசையுடன் 30 நிமிடங்கள் தியானம் நடைபெறும். அதனைத் தொடர்ந்து இன்றைய பிரதம பேச்சாளர் டாக்டர் பி தாமோதரன் அவர்கள் இன்குரலில் இன்னலுக்கான தீர்வுகள் என்ற தலைப்பில் பேசுவார்கள். அதனைத் தொடர்ந்து கேள்வி பதில் நடைபெறும். இப்பொழுது தியானத்தை பற்றிய சிறிய விளக்கம். தினமும் தியானம் செய்வதன் மூலம் மன அழுத்தம் மறைந்துவிடும், நோய் எதிர்ப்பு சக்தி அதிகரிக்கும், தன்னம்பிக்கை, தைரியம் வளரும். நாம் விரும்பிய மனிதராக ஆரோக்கியமாக வாழலாம். தியானம் என்பது நம் சுவாசத்தின் மீது கவனம். 5 வயது சிறுவர் முதல் பெரியோர் வரை யாரும் தியானம் செய்யலாம். அதுவும் தியானம் ஒவ்வொரு நாளும் செய்வது மிக மிக நன்மை பயக்கும். இப்பொழுது நாங்கள் எவ்வாறு தியானம் செய்வது என்பதை பற்றி கூறுகின்றேன். முதலில் சுகமான ஆசனத்தில், அதாவது நீங்கள் நிலத்தில் இருப்பவர்கள் ஒரு விரிப்பின் மேல் அமர்ந்து சமணங்கால் போட்டு இருக்கலாம். நாற்காலியில் கதிரையில் இருப்பவர்கள், சோஃபாவில் இருப்பவர்கள் கால்களை ஒன்றன் மேல் ஒன்றாக இவ்வாறு பாதத்தை ஒன்றுக்கு மேல் ஒன்று போட்டுக் கொண்டிருங்கள். கைகளை இவ்வாறு கோர்த்து மடி மீது வைத்துக் கொள்ளுங்கள். கண்களை இலகுவாக மூட வேண்டும். அதற்கு முதல் மூக்கு கண்ணாடி போட்டிருந்தால் அதை கலட்டி வைத்துவிட்டு தொண்டை வறட்சி ஏற்படாமல் இருப்பதற்காக ஒரு இளம் சூடான தண்ணீர் பருகலாம். இப்பொழுது நாங்கள் சுகமான ஆசனத்தில் அமர்ந்து கொண்டு கண்களை மூடி கைகளை கோர்த்து கால்களை பின்னி நமது உடம்பில் உள்சென்று கொண்டிருக்கும், இயற்கையாக நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கும் நமது மூச்சு, அதாவது சுவாசம், உள்மூச்சு வெளிமூச்சு இரண்டையும் கவனிக்க வேண்டும். எண்ணங்கள் தோன்றினால் அதை விடுத்து மீண்டும் மீண்டும் உங்கள் சுவாசத்திற்கே வர வேண்டும். நாங்கள் அவ்வாறு மீண்டும் மீண்டும் சுவாசத்துக்கு வரும் பொழுது எங்களுக்குள் ஒரு இறை சக்தி, அதாவது காஸ்மிக் எனர்ஜி என்று சொல்லப்படும் பிரபஞ்ச சக்தி எங்கள் உடம்புக்கு சென்று எங்கள் உடலில் உள்ள உபாதைகள் எல்லாவற்றையும் நீக்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கும். எனவே நண்பர்களே, இப்பொழுது உங்களுக்கு ஒரு இனிமையான இசை வழங்கப்படும். அந்த இசையுடன் உங்கள் சுவாசத்தை உள்மூச்சு வெளிமூச்சு இரண்டையும் கவனித்தபடி 30 நிமிடங்களுக்கு நாங்கள் தியானம் செய்வோம். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.